Welcome to the Coach Sam Show. This show, you guys are already laughing. My goodness. This show is about creating better husbands and better fathers. So I thought, who better to bring on than the people who have created the best husbands and fathers in the local community, probably in the state, probably in the United States of America, Sam Rogers and Ben Smith. However, today is a special show because we're going to talk more about Treign Up Academy and what brought these great leaders into Treign Up Academy and their heart behind it. The last show was with Ben, and we talked through how it all started through Treign Up, and a lot of that was through the boy crisis and developing young men. And you guys jumped with both feet into Treign Up Academy and wanted to talk all through that. So, Lauren, Alyssa, welcome to the show. Are you guys pumped?
Super pumped. Yeah.
Let's go. That is awesome. All right, I'm going to start with you, Alyssa, because we're going to settle this debate right here and right now. This came
It was me.
This came up on the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Who initially found out about Treign Up Academy?
100% me.
Okay, talk me through that story.
Treign Up Academy or Acton Academy?
Acton Academy, excuse
Yes.
me. Acton Academy.
So first one was not me.
Okay.
Acton Academy, though.
Acton
I found
Academy. Okay.
and introduced it to Ben. And he swears up and down that he found it first. But I have receipts. I can bring them to the next show if you guys need me to. But I found somebody was starting one in the area, and I just happened to follow her on Instagram. And I was like, oh my gosh, Acton Academy, what is that? And it talked about the hero's journey. And that's something that Ben has talked a lot about when it comes to like the best way that people learn is like through story and through trial and error and going through suffering and coming out on the other side. And so I first showed it to him. He's like, yeah, that's awesome. We're not doing that. We're homeschooling. And I was like,
So he shut it down.
He did. He was like, we're not paying for that.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
We're going to homeschool, which was always the plan anyway. So I was like, but this is really cool.
Yeah.
So then that was honestly a couple years
Mm-hmm.
before Treign Up Academy even kind of was like an idea in our hearts. So.
Okay, so you're confident that you 100% were the one who started this whole thing.
I'd arm wrestle him over it.
Gosh, I don't know if you would, but yes, that is great. Okay, I can jump on board. What drew you into acting? You talked a little bit about the hero's journey,
Mm-hmm.
and you heard Ben talking about that originally. But what excited you about this thing where you wanted to bring it up to Ben?
Just the idea of the learners being in charge and getting to make their own decisions and following their passions and following their dreams. And I think that so many of us, me included, we'd made a decision for college and a career at 18, and we had no real
life experience.
To help us decide that. It was like, oh, I'm kind of interested in this, or yeah, I feel passionate about this right now, but there was nothing that had built up to that moment. And I can't speak for everybody because everybody's experience in school is different, but it was just the idea of them getting to go on this journey. And I just wanted something different for my kids and for our friends' kids and our family's kids.
Yeah. Okay. Lauren, how did it start for you? What do you remember? What was the first thing you remember with this whole journey? Acting, Treign Up was the first thing you remember with all of it.
I remember talking with Alyssa at church when we were leading kids together. And we were talking about how we both were leaning towards homeschooling our kids. And I remember just that we were talking and we were like, oh, it'd be fun to do a homeschool co-op one day or something like that, just to have all of our kids learning together and so that they would still have that community feel. And then I remember Alyssa bringing up Acton to me too. And then I remember once Alyssa brought it up, because I do believe that Alyssa found it first, that Ben, I remember it happening so fast that Ben applied for us to open a school. And then like a week later, it was like, okay, I guess we're actually doing this. So that's what I remember.
Yeah, if you're friends with Ben, you got to be ready to go.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yes.
It's going to happen yesterday.
Yeah.
Similarly, for me, I remember it was me, Ward, Jacob, and Ben, and we were trying to figure out like what business venture we were going to go all in on together. Mm-hmm. We were just thinking through it, and we were talking about our things that we were passionate about, and then Ben and I had the most things that were like aligned. Like we already coached football together. Like I had this program that was built on building up better husbands, better fathers. He had Treign Up, and we were like, man, what would it be like if we started like this school? we said, what would it be like? And then I think that led to like, hey, Sam's all in on this. And the wives will be as well. So I remember like talking to Laura. I remember us being at the river and being like, hey, like, I think it's about to happen. Are you like, would you do this? And I think you've been used to me just kind of like jumping out and doing stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So I think you were like, yeah, sure, let's go do it. I know you and I were talking about homeschooling originally.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you want to homeschool originally? Like what made you want to do that as opposed to just going the traditional route? Like you and I, we met in second grade at Rural Point. Like we had great teachers up through it. Like what made you want to go a different route?
That's a good question. I think that just talking through it and just like our family's priorities, I think that public school just didn't really align with them anymore. And just the way that schooling is going, like nothing's really changed. And not that we had a bad experience, like we had a really good experience. We went to really good schools. Like you said, we had really good teachers. I still talk to some of my teachers and I love them. But I just remember for me, when I left for college, there were just like basic skills that I had to like figure out on my own, like how to look somebody in the eye and talk to them, how to like, this is going to sound silly, but like calling up the doctor and making my own appointments, like just things that that public school didn't emphasize, like good communication skills, like being able to stand up in front of the class and like give a speech, or being able to like vouch for myself, or just like the confidence. And so I just wanted something different I think we only had Caleb at that point, but just for my son, like I just wanted something different. I wanted him to learn all of these skills before he left our house, like, and just make sure that he was extra prepared. And then also I wanted him and our future kids to learn truth and to not have to like them not have to come home and us have to unteach or be like, hey, what did you learn today? Okay, well, that's not true. Like, let's rethink that. Let's talk about why that was said, things like that. So just like having a say in their education and being able to speak truth over our kids, I feel like was super, super important.
Yeah, I think that's what drew me into it originally. Like, I didn't want to have to unpack every day from a first grader, second grader, third grader. Like, hey, what did you hear today?
Yeah.
That's not true. This is true. And also, they're not going to be able to remember everything that they heard. Like, and there was like, I don't know, call it stress, call it anxiety. There was something around that I didn't like, and I didn't want to just pawn off to somebody else. But then as we were going down this like path of learning what Acton was all about, and you really start to think critically about what we do in a normal school day, and the question of, is that best? Like, is that the most helpful? So when we talk about like soft skills and 21st century skills, part of what we're talking about is kind of what you just said before. It's like the confidence, critical thinking, communication, leadership that needs to be developed in order to be able to do anything, much less a specific skill.
Right.
Just the confidence to be able to pick up the phone, the confidence to be able to stand up in front of a group and lead a class. I think we both know plenty of, and maybe we were these students, but plenty of 3.5, 4.0 students that still would have trouble leading people. So was it similar for you guys originally with just getting excited about, or maybe was there this nervousness about what they would hear? Was there the truth aspect, or was it just all in on the 21st century skills? Like, what specifically excited you about that?
With Treign Up Academy specifically, or homeschool?
Doing something different.
Something different.
Yeah, what excited you about doing something? What made you want to do something different? Because you went through public education out in middle of nowhere, Chesterfield, is that what it's called?
Matoka, actually.
Chesterton. So she was out from Chestertown, and which is 30 hours east. I can't remember where it is. But you went out there, and then you got into teaching after. You're a special education teacher. So like, what made you, with all of that, what made you want to be like, maybe this is not the best way for my sons?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think part of it, maybe at its very base or core, was selfishness, like wanting to be the people that spent the most time with our kids, not sending them and this is not a bad thing. Sometimes it's the only option that people have. Sometimes it's the best option for people's family. But we just got excited about being able to keep our kids home originally when we were going to homeschool, which we did, I guess, Cohen for kindergarten.
Yeah.
But then with Tua, and just wanting a different outcome for them. Similar to Lauren, when I was in elementary school, I tested into the gifted program, whatever, I don't remember what it's called or what it's called now. But I had great grades all throughout school, I graduated top 15 in my class, but I couldn't, like Lauren said, call the doctor without being so anxious or looking people in the eye or just these basic skills. I think I had pretty good character, but I also just kind of knew how to play the game of school. Like I was just good at turning in my work and I was good at, but there's so much growth that happened once I was outside of that environment, like surrounded by really good leaders.
Yeah.
So and honestly, watching Cohen as a little boy, he had so much energy.
Yeah.
And he was not going to sit still
Mhm.
without getting fussed at all the time. You know, like
Cohen
my
energy.
Cohen boy,
Yeah.
like high energy guy. And I didn't want him to. I didn't want him to have to sit there. And I was really good at sitting there at 7 years old and being told what to do. But was I better for it? No, not necessarily, you know?
Yeah.
So I just wanted something different for him. And then, you know, Malachi came along and Silas came along and it just became more and more clear that, we felt like there's a better way for our kids.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that kept coming back up to me when going down this path of learning more about Acton Academy and the freedom and the independent learning and developing the more important skills of confidence, critical thinking, communication, all that stuff. The guy that married us, I know we talk about him a ton, the guy that officiated our wedding, Mike Massey, he has this thing that he says about raising children. He's like, my goal is not to raise them up to be obedient and compliant. My goal is to raise them up to know how to manage their freedom. So you get these people that go through this system that produces obedient and compliant children, young men, young women. And the question is that the end goal? They would be obedient and compliant, or is the end goal that they would be independent thinkers who can think critically and seek out truth, regardless if anybody else is doing that? Especially, this will get into what your husband loves to talk about, especially with the amount of deception that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Like there's so many people that are saying, this is truth, this is truth, this is truth. I mean, think about how many podcasts there are right now that say like, hey, this is the life to live. Like I want to raise up our children, these young men and women who can think critically and actually seek out the truth, which we believe to be Jesus, the way, the truth, the life. So that's what, I think this independent learning, this freedom, seeking after the truth is what all kind of got us all really, really excited about this. All right, so you guys are currently the guides, the two lead guides, the masterful queens behind this whole thing. I really do want to know, so Ben calls you guys the queens often, and that came out of you guys not liking that he'd say
Girls.
Yes.
Okay, girls.
So like when we had like a group chat and he was addressing Lauren and Alyssa, you would say girls, and I think you were the first one like, from now on it's queens.
Yes.
We're
Has
not going to
queens
be
now
your girls
Majesty.
anymore.
Has queens now felt like girls? Are you guys still cool with queens?
It makes me laugh, but also feels slightly condescending. But I don't know what to tell him to do, so queens it is.
It's better. I think it's better than girls for sure. Because girls felt like
Shania Twain.
yes, or
Let's
like
go, girls.
just like a little kindergartner, like hey girls.
Ben, we love you. I love you. This is not to vent without you here. I love you so much. Okay, so you guys are the lead guides behind this whole thing. And we talked about this during the last episode, but we talked about like the guides are drastically different than teachers.
Yeah.
You spent time in special education where it's very like, here's the answer and do this, do that, right? So a guide is completely different than that. One of the foundational things of a guide is that you don't answer questions. And that alone freaks people out. Like right now, there's probably people that are like, what do you mean you don't answer questions?
Yeah.
So I don't want to dive too much into that without you guys speaking on that. What does that mean? You as guides, y'all don't answer questions? Alyssa, I'll let you start. What does that look like? Why is that a thing?
So people ask questions to get answers, right? And instead of just feeding them an answer that they can then regurgitate and accept as truth, you ask them a question back so that they can think through it themselves. And honestly, it is really hard sometimes. And maybe I only have experiences, a mom, but you're used to kind of answering questions as they come to you. So turning that part off and just thinking through, and not just any question, but like a meaningful question that will help guide and facilitate good discussions. I feel like that's a skill I really had to grow in as we first started. But yeah, what would you say?
I totally agree. I think that it's especially important when we're talking about the hero's journey and when we're talking about like building these 21st century skills. If they don't know how to think for themselves and if they don't know how to go about finding information, then I think that we are failing them. Like the whole not answering questions, it's not dismissive. It's not, hey, I just don't want to talk to you right now. It's like
intentional.
It's intentional and it's teaching them how to learn. Acton's all about learning how to be, learning how to do, and learning how to learn. And this is teaching them how to learn by themselves and teaching them different resources that they can go to as opposed to just me and Alyssa. Because in the real world, like they have access to the internet, they have access to books, they have access to all of these different tools. And if you're constantly going to an adult, you're not actually learning. You're not in this active state of learning. You're just in this passive, oh, I'll just go to Sam and he'll give me whatever answer I'm looking for. Where we want them to constantly be in this active state of learning where they are actively participating and they're actively engaging and they have to think. And they did not like it at first.
No.
They were like, why can't you just answer my question? And so I think that it's been a learning curve for sure for us. But I don't know how you feel. I feel like the more that I do it, the harder it is for me to get out of it when I go home. And I thought it was going to be the opposite. Like how I would constantly be thinking, oh, I can't answer this question. I can't answer it. But now it's like when I go home, I constantly ask my kids, or if like we were just at the beach with Sam's family and all of my nieces and nephews were coming up and asking questions, and I found myself doing the same thing, like asking them questions.
So true.
But
you're our favorite aunt.
Seriously. But I do think that it caused deeper conversations with them that I wouldn't have had if I just answered their question and moved on. Like it creates intentional relationships and it teaches them how to be humans.
And I think too, taking it from that, yes, agreed 100%, to a spiritual level, they get to practice discernment because like Sam said earlier, anybody can tell you anything. You go to Instagram and you find all sorts of information. It doesn't mean it's true. And so asking questions back and getting them to work through it and, seeking the Lord on it gives them the chance to also say, okay, I've got this information. Is it true or is it not true? Does it sit well? Does it, so.
Yeah, it's all built off, like the hero's journey is all built off believing that every child is way more capable than we could ever imagine. And they do have the ability. I always go back to this like silly story with Caleb when he had a sleep sack on. And whenever I think of that time frame, I also think of how Cohen and Malachi taught him how to crawl out of his crib, and he has been coming into our room every night since then. And I love your kids so much. That's one thing I'm going to strangle them for when they're 18. I love it. But anyway, he had a sleep sack on. He was 2 years old. And
so it's been 2 years of coming into your room every night.
Yes. And honestly, like off and on. Yeah.
Pretty much.
So if there's any, like, I know Little Z Sleep, if you watch this, please come over to our house. But anyway, his sleep sack on. And one day I was just like, and I think it was around the time when we were like learning about this whole thing. I'm like, no, he can do it. So I was like, I'm not taking your sleep sack off. You can do it. And I was being stubborn about it. And,
probably not in the best way. But,
probably did not do it with like the warm-heartedness that guys have to have. But I was like, you can do it. I'm leaving. You can cry all you want. You can sit in your room, but you do this. So I walked out and he's like screaming, crying, flailing, all that stuff. And then eventually stops. And I can hear him like grunting and trying to figure it out. And then he finally gets it off and he goes, I did it! and like I'm sprinting out of the room.
So happy.
But we steal joy
Yeah.
from these children when we just force feed them
Yeah.
the answer. Like there's joy in overcoming and learning how
Yeah.
to do it and learning how. So when we give them the answer, there's also this subtle message of you can't do it.
Mhm.
When we don't give them the answer, there's this subtle message of I believe in you.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So when you guys are getting onboarded into being guides, I know one of the things that the Santa first talked about was being tough-minded and warm-hearted.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Alyssa, I'll start with you. Why is that combination so necessary as a guide? Like the tough-mindedness and warm-heartedness, because you're not just dismissing them. There's encouragement
Right.
involved. You're not saying, go figure it out on your own. I'm not talking to you. Why is that combination so important for a guide?
Yeah, as somebody who tends to be more warm-hearted than tough-minded, I have to fight this rescuer in me of, oh my gosh, I see them struggling. I just want to help them. I just want to fix it for them. So that's when I have to bring in this tough-mindedness of, no, they are capable. Yes, they have what it takes. And you have to balance each other out. And sometimes there are situations where it calls for you to be more warm-hearted, and sometimes there are situations where you have to be more tough-minded, and sometimes it's where Lauren and I work together really well.
Yeah.
Because she tends to be more tough-minded versus warm-hearted, and I can call on her or lean on her in those ways. But yeah, it's not everything's black and white. People aren't black and white. Learning environments aren't black and white, and so being able to lean onto whichever side you need to be more of in those moments is like super key. There's still young people who need or desire connection. And so to only be tough-minded steals that connection. Whereas to rescue them all the time steals their confidence and their ability.
Yeah. What would you say with that combination? Why is that combination so important?
I think I agree with what Alyssa said. Like, if we are too warm-hearted, then it causes us to want to be that rescuer, and it takes away their confidence. I feel like when we don't rescue, when we answer questions all the time with I believe you can figure it out. Like, I believe that you know where that answer is. I believe you can do it.
Yeah.
And so when we answer with that, I feel like they constantly are encouraged and inspired. And I think that you have to be tough-minded in order to do that, because the easier work is to just give them the answer.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like as adults, as parents, we've all fallen into that. Like, Caleb will ask us constant questions and it's question after question after question. Sometimes I'll just say yes because it's the easier work, right? Yeah. But like, if we are truly in this, we have this mission to build these learners into the geniuses that they're capable of being. It's like the harder work, the tougher work is to have that tough mindset and being able to stick to your guns and saying, I'm not going to do it for you.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes that's really hard.
Yeah.
But being able to be warm-hearted in that situation is where I feel like they feel inspired and empowered. And it's, if you just have one without the other, then they're going to feel like this person doesn't believe in me. They don't think, like, they just don't want anything to do with me.
Yeah.
So that's where the warm-hearted comes in, I think.
Yeah, it almost, like, as you guys are talking about it, one without the other, pick one, like one without the other seems to be more about us than it is about them. Like, if I am just tough-minded, like maybe kind of how I was with the sleep sack situation, but if I'm just tough-minded, it's almost becomes about me and me being like, oh, well, I'm going to be dismissive, tough-minded, you get away from me, you figure it out. If I'm just warm-hearted, then I also steal the confidence. But if I am both, that becomes this selfless posture of, hey, I believe in you, and I'm sticking to my guns here. Like, I'm not going to help you.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna let you figure this out while I'm right next to you.
Yeah.
Again, another thing that excited me about this Acton methodology is I see so many parallels to the New Testament.
Yeah.
Like, I see so many parallels to the way that Jesus operated. And one of the things that makes us different than a normal Acton Academy is that we are Treign Up Academy.
Yeah.
And our main hope is that people come to experience the Lord through our school. What have been some cool experiences that you guys have seen already in, like, experiencing Jesus in Treign Up Academy? Alyssa, I'll let you start.
Gosh, so we do this thing called training time, which is where we either have a really awesome video by Coach Sam over here
Oh,
introducing
hey,
a topic or a character or a concept, or the other days we spend time in worship and in prayer and journaling. And we listen for the voice of the Lord, which is not something I did until I was an adult. Like I specifically remember going to a class to learn more about hearing the voice of God, you know? And so just seeing how those training times have grown and evolved over the course of this first year has been awesome. One of my favorite things that we do is the birthday tradition of speaking words over people. And bless her, Finley was our first birthday of the year, and nobody really, her birthday was in September, August. Yeah. So nobody really knew what that looked like or what to do.
Or knew Finley very well.
Or knew Finley, yeah. But they're doing their best. They're saying like, we're so glad she's here. Finley's a nice girl. Yeah. But then like this year, so Cohen's birthday was in March, and hearing them speak like his character traits that we're praying over him, and the things that he's done to like help be a leader, and just calling out these really positive things and praying very specific things over him. Oh my gosh, it like brought me to tears. It was just really, really cool to know that that's the environment that not only my boys get to be in, but your kids get to be in, and all like our friends' kids gets to be in. And just from a very young age, getting to hear the voice of their Lord, like that's so cool. Yeah.
And piggybacking off of what you said, just them speaking character traits over each other. Like we also do this thing every morning. Acton like greets everybody with a handshake every day, which we do, but we also ask them, who are you? And they have these traits that their parents have spoken over them. They've prayed over them. And Cohen's is, you are a wise, courageous warrior. And I remember one day Cohen was struggling. Like he was just not having a great day, feeling super down, feeling like I can't do this. And one of the other learners came up to him and he said, Cohen, you're a wise, courageous warrior. You can do this. And like, that is something that I feel like I'm just now learning how to do, like calling out truth in my friends and like just now being in that community where that is accepted and that's the norm. And part of the reason that I wanted my kids to be a part of this, like that is going to be their norm. Like they are going to
those are their friends saying those things over them.
And they're going to get friends and teachers and guides, not teachers, but coaches and just all of these adults and all of their peers speaking life over them every single day.
There's this verse in scripture that we've talked about like in home church that always freaks me out. It's not the right, like it confuses me, I guess the best way to say it. But Jesus says to his disciples and to us, essentially, you're going to do even greater things than these. And I'm like, how is that possible? And he's hinting towards the Holy Spirit coming and the Holy Spirit living in each of us. But I think there's also this like posture of a good dad a good mom wants to see their kids do more and do better. And I think for us, like I want Caleb, Lucas, Scarlett's our girl's name. If you haven't known, she's pregnant right now. Anyway, I want our kids to hear the voice of the Lord so much sooner than I ever did. I want them to experience God, not just read about him and memorize scripture, but like know the heart of the Father so much sooner. And there's this hesitation that comes with that. I get that of like, how do you teach young children to do that? But I think it's almost easier. There's so much more purity that they've approached it with than we do. They don't have the built up insecurity over years and years and years.
Or the skepticism or the
And like, all right, so what would you say to this? There's probably some people that maybe grew up in environments where the gifts of the Spirit might have been abused. So just to dismiss these thoughts too, like what are you guys doing in training time? Y'all just teaching everybody how to speak in tongues the entire time? Y'all holding up snakes? What are y'all doing? What are y'all doing during training time? Is that what we do? What would you guys say that looks like?
I'll let you take this.
How many snakes have you held up so far?
So far, none. However, they do like to find snake holes outside, so I'm sure it's coming. And I'm sure I'm going to be the one to deal with it.
100%.
But
thanks for being tough-minded.
You're welcome.
I will not deal with it, so I just want to make that clear.
I am the man in this group.
Man, it's tough to hear, but I agree.
So I would say that we just emphasize the Bible as truth. And so whatever words you feel like you get, whatever pictures you feel like you get, like we are constantly comparing that to the words of Jesus. And if it goes against scripture, that is something that we have like drawn a line, like, hey, we're going to step in and we are going to tell you truth, because that's part of the reason we wanted to start this school, is to teach you truth. But so far, I don't know. I don't feel like that's it. It
No.
hasn't happened. And they're just so pure and so innocent. And they don't, I don't know, they don't have all of this extra baggage or things coming into it. Like they are just, it's so cool to just sit there, turn on a worship song, and all of their hands are raised and they're closing their eyes and they're sitting cross-legged and they're just worshiping Jesus. And when you teach kids, teach learners from this young age how to do that, like I just feel like there hasn't been room for the enemy to come in and distort it. Like it's just, and we're not in there saying, hey, this is how you speak in tongues.
Right.
This is how you hear from Jesus. It's just like, hey, what do you feel like God's been putting on your heart? Is there a prayer you want to pray over someone?
Yeah.
There's one girl, and I feel like she gets pictures from the Lord and she like draws them down during training time and then will explain them to us. I'm like, that is so cool. And they get these pictures, they get these words from listening to the stories, listening to your teachings, and then being able to like apply those to real life. And I remember they'll talk about like being stressed or being discouraged and things like that. And there was a phase where they just read Psalm 23 every single training time. And it was like, what word do you feel like you got from Jesus? And they just read the entire verse. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. And that was super cool.
Yeah. And it's like you said, so many of the things that they share are just, it's like, God just wanted me to share that he loves us.
Yes.
You know, it's things like that. And then sometimes we're super surprised. We're like, oh my gosh, what a powerful word.
Yeah.
But all of it is true and powerful. And more times than not, I feel like I've been brought to tears just by like knowing that the presence of the Lord is in that room with us, you know?
Listening to the way that they pray now is like the same kind of thing that we were talking about with the speaking words over each other. But the way that they pray now versus the beginning of the year, there are two prayers that stick out to me. And one of them, one of our boys, he prayed a prayer and he said, it was the beginning of the day. And he said, Jesus, thank you for tearing the veil from top to bottom so that we could have relationship with you. And that's how we started our day that day. And then there was another prayer. I think you were going through David and Goliath, like the story of David and Goliath with
Gideon
them.
Too, at the same time.
Maybe Gideon. But there was one prayer, and one of the learners, it was taking stories from what Sam was teaching. And he said, Jesus, thank you for giving us courage like David, the strength of Gideon, and your spirit that lives in us. I pray that we continue to have all those traits as we like live out the rest of our day today.
It's like amazing.
Like, I don't even know if I learned how to pray like that until a couple years ago.
Yeah. Like when people hear prophecy, that there's a million different reactions that someone might get to that word, and like hearing the prophetic. All we mean when we say that is trying to like hear from the Lord, and none of us, I might be speaking for you guys, I haven't heard audibly the word of the Lord. I haven't heard that. But like getting these thoughts that you get fixated on, like feeling these promptings like in your heart, and hearing that, feeling that, and then speaking that. And then our boundaries are scripture. And if it falls outside of scripture, which it hasn't so far, but if it fell outside of scripture, then we'd correct that. We'd bring that back in. But like there's freedom within the boundaries of scripture. Like the verse that comes to mind is faith comes through hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Like, so like there's this faith in hearing God's voice, not just reading it, but hearing God's voice. And that comes through knowing scripture. It's not one or the other, but it's both and. So like you were saying, like these prayers, those prayers were built around what they had heard from scripture. Now this is gonna actually, before we go into that, I want to ask this. You guys, we are all building this school built on Jesus. How important has it been for you guys to get some type of getaway with the Lord, some Sabbath rest with Him, like and being totally honest with this. Like I know I haven't been super consistent throughout the year with that, but how important have those moments you guys have had of rest with the Lord, and why is that so imperative for any future guide that's going to come in to help with us?
Yeah, you want to start?
Sure. I feel like just in general, like taking time to get away with Jesus, like there's this exchange that happens of like, give me your burdens and I'll give you rest, right? Like, come to me, my yoke is easy and my burdens are light. So like we get to go and exchange that with Jesus, and he gives us his peace and his rest. And so like just first year starting a school has not been easy, like especially we're both full-time moms, and we're both like this is our first time that either one of us have gone back to work full-time since having any of our kids. And then there are just stressors, and there are things that come with starting your own business that you don't get in a regular job that we have to face as owners of this school. And so I have not been like super consistent with my Sabbaths, and I feel like I can tell when I go to work and I feel overwhelmed and I feel super burdened. And then it's like, okay, Jesus, like now I'll come to you. But when I take the time to Sabbath and just rest with him, I just feel more peace. I feel like I'm a better guide, like I'm a better mom. I have way longer of a fuse, I guess that's how you would say that. I don't have such a short fuse. Like it I just feel like I'm meant to be where I am. And I don't know if you feel the same, but
definitely. What I was going to start with is that I can for sure tell when I'm not getting away with Jesus. And I don't remember the right way to really say this, but it's, you know, when you get bumped, what is inside of you is what comes out. And so I can tell when what's inside of me is stress or anxiety or striving. Like if I feel like I'm having to really dig deep and like just check these things off my list, and you know, I'm getting up and working out and I'm just pushing through my day, those are the things that are coming out instead of grace and love and patience and, you know, the fruits of the Spirit that I really want to be coming out when I'm bumped, you know, with our learners at school, with my husband, with our children, because those are the people we spend the most time with. You know, it's easy for them to get the worst of us sometimes.
Absolutely.
So agreed. I can tell when I'm not being consistent. And I think I shared at house church recently that that's the easiest thing to let go of in these days that feel so full, and this year of building something from the ground up is like, okay, well, that I know it's a necessary thing, and well, I can pencil that in later, and if I don't get to it, I don't get to it. But these have tos, my kids have to get fed. You know, I have to go to work at 7:45 in the morning, you know, things like that. So I've learned more and more that it's in this seasons of busyness that are the hardest to like make room for him and make time for him, but it's when I need him the most.
Absolutely.
So,
and I think like just for future guides, like I think that there's just a greater weight and a responsibility on you, especially as leaders in a school that values teaching children how to get away and hear from the Lord. It's like, if we're not doing that, how can we adequately like show them how to do that? And how can we if we're not like practicing what we preach? And I just feel like there's like just a greater responsibility as a leader to like get away with him and be able, because I feel like we won't reflect Jesus unless we spend time with him. And so if we're spending time with the Lord, then like that's what all of the learners at our school are going to see. They're going to see Lauren and Alyssa falling in love with Jesus, and that's going to make them want to fall in love with Jesus. If we're just preaching at them, that has never once saved anybody. It's when people truly love the Lord and are falling in love with him, and you're like, I want to be like that
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. What do they have?
And not
Yeah.
that we're doing it for other people, we're doing it for ourselves. It's just this natural reaction that happens. Like people see the joy like just radiating off you when you spend time with him.
Yeah.
They see your peace. They see just all of the fruits of the Spirit that he gives you. And it's like, I want that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What comes to mind is captivated people are captivating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you're captivated, it's captivating. And I know times for me, when I felt the most burnt out, it's when I'm not getting alone with Jesus. And Jesus reminds me, like, hey, I have you in this season.
Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned this, but like you're meant to do this. Like you're in this
Yeah.
season for a reason.
Yeah.
It's almost like we hear this verse of like, pick up your cross daily and follow me. And then you also hear, my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, Lord, how do those two things like mesh together? And it's almost like, gosh, if I'm carrying a cross that feels really, really heavy, it's probably one that I'm putting on myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably not the one he's meant me to carry.
Mm-hmm.
I need to carry it with joy. And the only way to do that is to get alone with him. But I will give you guys this. Y'all are probably way harder on yourselves than you need to be. You guys do bring peace every time that you guys walk in there. You guys are the reason we even have a functioning academy right now. You guys bring the joy of the Lord everywhere you go. So don't think for a second that you haven't spent enough time with the Lord to be able to radiate that. You guys radiate that in your homes. You guys radiate that in our academy. You radiate that with your kids. Y'all do a phenomenal, phenomenal job. Just to brag on them for a second, these guys, these queens, girls,
Us girls.
these ladies right here. I don't know what to say, but these women right here, they were Tough 90 recipients.
Yeah, we were.
Earlier in
Yep,
the year.
we did it.
While leading the school, they woke up and they did 5 a.m. workouts for 3 straight months, which brings me to our first sponsors, Treign Up Fitness. 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. 5 times a week. Anyway, they did Tough 90. Awesome job doing that. They're leading a school. Lauren is pregnant right now, 7 months pregnant, right? 6 months pregnant, 7 months
Yeah.
pregnant. It's mine.
A
But,
lot pregnant.
It's fine.
but like, you guys are also moms. Like y'all, we have in one room, we have the learners. In the other room, whoever's not the lead guide is with the kids. Like you guys have busted your butts all year just to get this thing off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And next year, you guys get to transition to, which we'll hit on at the end, you guys get to transition into this like guide coaching role. And I'm really excited for you guys to do that because I think you guys have already paved the way. It's going to be so much easier for these next guides to come in because of the hard work that you guys have done. They're not going to start from where you guys started. They're going to start from where you guys finished, which is going to be really, really cool.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say that you guys are doing a phenomenal, phenomenal job. Y'all should not feel any like disappointment or anything like that. Y'all done a freaking awesome job. So kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
All right. So we talked a little about the training time and how that works. And basically, guys, that's 15 minutes a day.
Yeah.
It's not a huge part of our schedule. It's a really important time. And throughout the rest of the day, there's reminders towards it, but that's 15 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of looks similar to civilization, with the way we do civilization, where like we'll read a story and ask questions around that. But you mentioned when they come in, there's that handshake, there's the who are you, there's the launch.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the launch for a second, because I want to talk about launch, core skills, and quest, and then we'll get into our final portion of it. Sound good?
Deal.
Sounds great.
The launch, the first thing that we start our day with, Alyssa, I'll let you start it off here. But what does that look like? What is the launch? What's the purpose of that? What do we do there?
The launch it's kind of like our opening group discussion, for just to make it super simple, but it comes with the chance for them to debate either something moral or to come up with answers pertaining to just like these big questions. I'm trying to think of a good one. Like one of them was on kindness. And so they got to talk about, all right, what would we rate ourselves as a studio, scale of 1 to 10 on kindness? And then there was another one that was, okay, well, what's more importance? What's more important, kindness or excellence?
Yeah.
How are we exemplifying those? And so it just gives them the chance to have these like deeper discussions and even debate among each other. And like, that's kind of a hard question, kindness versus excellence. Like you could have arguments for both of them, you know? And Sometimes they're moral dilemmas. Sometimes they get to listen to a story and not just answer questions like we're regurgitating facts about the story, but you get into like the what ifs or what would you do? And yeah, it kind of just opens up the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, and sometimes, I don't know, what would you say, Lauren? How would you add to that?
They're meant to inspire.
Yeah.
They're meant to equip. They're meant to like get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah. And it's all Socratic discussion based.
Mhm.
So forcing them to pick a side and forcing them to take a stand
Yes.
and making them be able to argue their points. And we're a younger studio, so we haven't like quite gotten there yet, but we're building the foundation right now of making them choose one. It's like, hey, you can't choose excellence and what was the other?
Kindness.
You can't choose
Yeah.
excellence and kindness.
Which
if you had
would
to
you
pick,
pick?
which one
Yeah.
would you
Yeah.
pick, and tell me why?
Yeah.
And then you guys are me and Alyssa, we're gonna step back and you guys are gonna have this conversation
Yeah.
and tell me why that is the most important for our studio. And that starts our day off right.
Mhm.
And it creates these skills of being able to have an opinion, stand firm on your opinion,
Mhm.
and yeah, just really equip you to, I don't know, lead conversations in the future.
Yeah.
And the more that they do that, like there are kindergarten age learners in our studio that are doing that now.
Mhm.
How much better are they going to be at
Right.
holding firm to their beliefs and their values and their stances when they graduate
Yeah.
from us?
And like I've told them a couple times, I'm sure you have too, is like sometimes life gives you two hard things to pick
Yeah.
from. There's not a perfect
True.
answer and you have to make a choice.
Mhm.
And so practicing thinking through what you believe, what you think, that's a skill, and we get to start our day off with that every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. They're like comparing that to traditional schooling. Traditional schooling, there's not many decisions you have to make.
Mhm.
Do this, do that, do that.
Mm.
At Treign Up Academy, you are going to make 1,000 decisions every single day.
Yeah.
And we're starting that off with this tough decision that you got to
Mhm.
make. I think that was the launch that I was there for. It was like excellence, kindness, and focus. Like
Yeah.
if you had those superpowers, which one would you pick?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there in the back, like, oh my God, I don't know which one I would pick. Like, they're all great, but like you have to choose one.
Yeah.
So it's getting this ball rolling and practicing decision making.
Mhm.
All right. So then after that, let's say we go into core skills. Why don't we spend all day on it? Okay. Why is it? So it's 90 minutes, usually every day, 60 to 90 minutes every day.
Mhm.
What does that look like? And why do you believe the way that we do it is a better way than traditional schooling? Of fill out these worksheets, kind of listen to this lecture. What does core skills look like? Why is that better the way that we do it? Lauren, I'll let you start.
So our core skills time is basically time where they get to work on their reading, their writing, their math, and they get the opportunity to choose what they want to work on during those 90 minutes. And it has been really, really cool the way that we do it, because we use different apps. Right now we have Lexia, we have Lexia's for reading, we have Khan Academy for math. And then we also have Dreambox for the younger learners that are doing math. And we have Synthesis, which helps with the Khan Academy, and just different ways for them to learn basic skills. But I think the cool way about them getting to choose what they want to do is that they have complete ownership over their learning.
Mhm.
If they need to stay back and keep going over this certain level of reading, then they can do that. They don't have to move on because the rest of the class is moving on. They get to sit there and they have this private tutor online that's telling them what to do. There are more instructional videos if you get to that point. Like there is somebody that is coaching you through it. There are always buddies that are willing to help out. Like if you're struggling with something, being able to go and ask a friend and them being able to actively teach you without having an adult involved has been really cool. But yeah, just them being able to move at their own pace. And what we've found is that sometimes they're super into reading and they will go on this reading streak and they might not do math for a couple of weeks. Cohen, months.
Yes.
Actually, it was opposite. He did math for months and did not read.
Yes.
But Cohen has now started some second grade math in the first grade Whereas if he was in first grade traditional like public schooling, he wouldn't be able to do that because he would have had to sit back with his class.
Yeah.
So that alone right there freaks out parents.
Yes.
Why does that not freak you out? Like why does it not freak you out that he didn't touch reading?
Who said it didn't?
Yeah. Well, true. Yeah.
Well, it's just like I get the unique perspective of being founder, guide, and mom this whole first year, which is its own podcast, frankly. So let me know if you want me to come back.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was then that I was like, man, I got to put my money where my mouth is. Like I say, I believe these things, and here's my kid only doing math. Like, so just for perspective, we did homeschool with Cohen for kindergarten, and we don't do grades at Acton Academy or Treign Up Academy. Yeah. But traditionally he'd be in first grade this year. Yeah. So he had zero interest in learning to read in kindergarten. And so I'm like, okay, there's these two sides of me that are battling, make him read. He's supposed to be able to read right now. If he doesn't want to read right now, don't make him read right now. He'll read eventually. Like those are my two inner moms battling each other. Yeah. So we started at Tua and he couldn't read yet. He had like basics down, but he wasn't, I would have said that he was technically kind of behind where he should have been. And he has finished all of first grade reading on Lexia now, and that's doing reading half the year. So he, like, once he was ready to do it and once he was excited about it, he like took the reins and ran with it. And he is reading all the time. We keep books in the car. We keep books in backpacks and they go with us everywhere. But it was that moment of, okay, like I say, I trust you. Yeah. Do I? Am I going to let you do this? And it was hard. Like saying and professing you believe something and then like having it play out and letting it play out, I think were two things that I thought I was more prepared for than I was. And when I let that side win out and he, I gave him the freedom, we gave him the freedom to do that, he's thrived. Like given the opportunity to choose and be excited. Kids remember, we adults remember what is exciting to us, what we love, what we're interested in, and kids are the same way. And so like, I don't know, I think he's really thrived, and not just Cohen, but all of them. Yeah. Everybody who started that couldn't read yet is reading to some degree, you know, and that's not to place too much emphasis on that, but it is really cool if you allow them to, if you trust them and you allow this methodology to work, it's going to work. Like you're going to be so pleasantly surprised. It's really cool.
And it is like, he didn't want to read until he saw his fellow learners. They were reading. They're all obsessed with Dog Band right now. Yeah. And so Cohen would have to get somebody to read to him during our DEAR. We call it DEAR. It's drop everything and read. And we have 30 minutes where you just read whatever you want. And Cohen would have to get somebody to read it to him. And you just saw him being like, no, I want to be able to read this on my own. And so that's when he got more onto this reading kick. And Acton is all about failing early and failing often and suffering natural consequences. So the natural consequence of Cohen not doing his Lexia like he was supposed to last year was that he came in and he couldn't read. Yeah. And so he had to learn from that failure and he had to put in the work to be able to read. And now he's reading books to sometimes Caleb and Malachi that'll come in and just like sit with him and he's reading to them. Yeah. So it wasn't anything that an adult did. Right. You tried last year homeschooling, like, hey, you have to do this. Please read. But that didn't inspire Cohen. What inspired Cohen was the fact that the rest of his friends were reading and he didn't want to be left behind, and they were enjoying it, and he wanted to do the same.
Yeah, I think that's right there is one of the reasons that I would say Treign Up Academy and Acton Academies are better than homeschooling, is because you address some of the things that we see as issues maybe with traditional schooling, you homeschool, but you can't mimic the environment that you get to be in, and the environment is what changed Cohen's ability to be able to read, his desire to read. I also know this to be true for me. Like, and this is true for you guys. When you guys got the 2 hours uninterrupted, occasionally to be away from your family, away from your husbands, to just work. Like, y'all got so much done in just the 2 hours. Yeah. Like, it's not about time. Right. It's about intentional time. Right. And how much intentional time do you have? So yeah, you could struggle with your kid for days, weeks, months, years. Yeah. Do this. Or when it becomes their own and they choose to do it. Yeah. they'll fly right through it.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the amount of time they spend. It's everything to do with the amount of intentional time. When they
Right.
care about it, they're going to want to do it.
Exactly.
So the question is, how do we get them to care about it?
Yeah.
The question is not like, how do we get them to check the box? How do we get them to care about it? And another thing, just so people listening to this might help them out a little bit. These platforms, they're still correcting them. Like if they put in the wrong answer, it's not like, oh, great job, we're not going to tell you the right answer. Just because you guys aren't answering questions doesn't mean that these platforms are just like passing them along.
Right.
They're still guiding them back to like, what is the right answer, and they're struggling through that. All right, so that's a little bit of a glimpse into core skills. Another thing that I think is really, really cool is the quest time that we have. Talk through what quest is, what that looks like session to session, and why you guys are excited about quest time at Treign Up Academy. Let's start.
You want to go for it, or you
Sure.
want me to?
No, a quest, like the word quest kind of, I guess, goes hand in hand with the hero's journey. So it's this adventure that you go on. And each session, so we work in sessions and we have a week break, and then we have another session and week break. So each session has its own quest, its own adventure, its own topic that we're diving deeper into. And it's not just a project. It's honestly, it is an adventure. They are, so Lauren got to lead a really fun one on community garden. And so do we do science every single day as a subject at Treign Up Academy? No, but you have these quests that come on and do some of these, like whatever the opposite of a core skill is, these other subjects. And so they're learning about plants, pollinators. They're learning how like environment interacts with each other. Y'all talked about GMOs and is it better to genetically modify something or not if the outcome changes? And they got to create their own gardens, build these gardens, plant them, all these really cool things. So it's just another way to put them in the driver's seat of their learning, and it introduces them to different topics, things that might excite them, ignite their passion about learning something new. This past session, we did a quest called Growing Curiosity, and each learner got to take 1 week to lead their own mini quest. And so we had everything from nature to animals to ancient Egypt to power. And what was the last one?
Oh gosh.
Oh, Native Americans.
Yes.
So we had a little bit of everything, and it was all completely their decision what they wanted to talk about. And they each came prepared with videos and activities, and they had to meet with me the Friday before their quest and help me come up with a list of supplies that they needed. And now this session, they get to pick a field trip that aligns with the mini quest that they led. So I don't know, they're really cool. It's something super unique to Acton Academies. How would you add to that?
And I would just say it's more like the hands-on learning to make it active and to make it fun. And part of what we love about Acton is that they have this whole tool shed where they have put together all of these really, really fun ideas. And we just get to like let it play out. And it has been really, really awesome. And like Alyssa said, like we've done a couple of science quests. We had a history quest. I did one all about Acton, Athens.
The entrepreneurship quest, like the biggest one of the year.
The children's business fair. They get to create their own business and build their own business. And we're going to do that for the younger learners as well. But for the older learners, that goes into economics. Like you're learning how to make money. You're learning, and there are all of these different ways that you can learn through actually building something. And it's so cool for it to be hands-on. They actually make money. Like we put this entire business fair together. I think one of our learners made over $500. And that was just one day at the business fair. I think he was taking other orders as well on the side. But it caused him to have this passion and to show his community, and his community was excited about. I mean, they were great bagels. And so just these hands-on learning that can be applied to real life. Going through each quest has a launch. It's got this Socratic dilemma as well. You're having active discussions. It's not just a worksheet that you're filling out on economics. You're actually creating your business and you're selling your product. It's not just, we're going to learn about ancient Greece today. It's, hey, we are going to create things that they created. Like it was this huge arts and crafts quest.
Yeah.
And we created different things that they created. We would make different like math materials. I forget what they're called.
Abacus?
Yes.
About abacus. Yeah.
Something like that. But like we are creating these different tools that they were using back in ancient Greece, and it's all hands-on, and it's emerging them into whatever subject we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We did a quest about robotics and coding, and we got to build robots and see how we code them.
Yeah.
And
They all like finished a course in basic coding. Like,
yeah,
so cool.
it's so neat.
And what we encouraged parents for like the business fair specifically was like, hey, if your learner isn't doing what they're supposed to do, if they're not making what they're supposed to make for this, let them come to the business fair and fail. Like,
Yeah.
don't do it. Don't rescue them. Don't do it for them. Sit and partner with them and,
Mhm.
you know, ask them questions and help guide them in that sense. But if they're not doing what they're supposed to, if they're not managing their responsibility, let them fail. Which we know as parents is hard. And as founders of a school and guides of a school is hard,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
But yeah, the quests, they're really, really fun.
They're
And
very
it's
fun.
cool to see what interests emerge after those, what
Yeah.
they get excited about learning more about.
Mhm.
And that's where real learning occurs too, is I was introduced to this topic and it's fascinating me. I'm going to dive deeper. Like, they're not
Yeah.
relying
Yeah.
on us to tell them more facts about it. It's like, I want to know more about it. I'm going to find
And
more information.
Going off of that, one of your mini quests, one of the learners chose to do one on nature after doing the community garden quest.
Yes.
And like started planting more plants and learning
Mhm.
about forests, and like just I feel like the garden quest inspired that
Yes.
mini quest because she was so excited about that quest that she wanted to continue to learn about it.
Yeah.
Just a good example.
Yeah.
Hey, can you text your parents right now and tell them that we'll be there at 3:45?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oops.
Her parents are watching our kids right now. They have a meeting at 4. Jim and Lisa, if you listen to this, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for helping us this year. If you guys want their babysitting services, I'll leave the number in the description. They're not taking any more clients though. All right. It's kind of like put a bow on this, like about the school in general. What it's built out of is built out of the question of what is best and what's going to actually transfer to real life. So when we think about what's going to transfer to real life, I talked about this, I actually posted this one today, like how many questions or how many things would we actually remember from school that we experienced? Like if you were to get a chemistry test right now, would you pass that test? You're going to get a biology test. So coming into this, initially, it can freak parents out to be like,
Yeah.
well, you don't have a biology class. You don't have a chemistry class.
Mhm.
Well, no, we prioritize reading, writing, math.
Mhm.
And we have that. And the other ones are experiential learning. And we want them to see where they're passionate
Mhm.
and then go dive into those things. So we think about what's most important, what's going to transfer to real life, and especially keeping up with what is available to us right now.
Yeah.
We could teach ourselves anything if we
Mhm.
wanted to through the technology that we have. What we are more concerned with is them developing those soft skills of being internally motivated, right? We talk about all the time, the critical thinking, communication, leadership, but them having the autonomy, independence, decision-making ability to go and attack life. And most importantly to us, that foundational relationship with Jesus.
Mhm.
Gosh, we think there's no better place for young people in our community than Treign Up Academy.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to shift into the last two little things real quick. We talked about all last time with Ben. A majority of last time was why we're excited about this for young men.
Mhm.
I know you are a mom to 3 boys. You are a mom to 2 boys, but we have a little girl on the way. Like, what also makes you excited for young women coming up through this? What makes you excited for them? Yeah, I'll leave it at that. What makes you excited for young women coming through Treign Up Academy?
Yeah. So when Ben first pitched this idea of Treign Up Academy, he was like, what would you think about it being all boys? I was like, well, I don't want to build a school that my future very fictitious daughter couldn't attend, you know, or that my nieces couldn't attend. And I think too, and you know, he was obviously agreeable and we have a co-ed school, but I think too, of course, girls and women's problem are different than what men face, but that doesn't mean they're any less attacked by the enemy. That
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
mean
yeah.
that they're struggling any less. They're just struggling in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so it excites me to be able to be a source of truth in their life. If they're questioning their identity about who made them, how he made them, why he made them, we get to speak into that. We get to speak life over them. We get to speak affirmation over them. We get just to be these extra voices in their lives saying, this is who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I have all boys, but there's only so much that I can relate to experientially, but
Yeah.
as a woman with girls in our school, like, hey, I walked through that. Here's what I did, or here's what I wish I did.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how the Lord met me in that, so it just excites me that, I don't know, they're never going to avoid pain or struggles or suffering, but I think we're creating an environment where, I don't know, where maybe there's just, I don't want to say less of it, because it is good to walk through it and to come out on the other side, but where they won't feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like what happens in the dark, it leads to isolation, and then you feel like you're the only person walking through it, and that leads to even worse things. And just building up this community for girls where they feel cherished, treasured,
Mhm.
valued, and hey, like, there's so much that you are capable of. Don't fall into the lies of the enemy. Don't fall into this trap of comparing yourself to others. What would you say? I know that's not super specific, but
Yeah, I think just like from the start, like if me and Alyssa are going to be involved in this, then it's not going to be just for boys, because we don't, even though we have 5 sons between the two of us, like we are girls.
Mhm.
And we have walked through what these young girls are walking through. We haven't walked through what our sons are walking through.
Right.
So like just from the beginning, like if y'all wanted us to be a part of this, we were like, hey, like
We needed you.
how am I gonna, like, a boy is not gonna look up to me the same way a girl is gonna look up to me, because they're gonna go to a male role model.
Mhm.
How they should, I feel like. But I also, for the girls that are going to our school in Scarlet one day, I am just so excited, like you said, like the speaking life and truth into them, them being able to have this relationship with Jesus, see their guides falling in love with Jesus. Hopefully, like we're starting worship nights with the parents this coming year, seeing their parents fall in love with Jesus, and being able to just them having that firm and strong relationship with him way earlier than I ever did. I feel like that creates this confidence that makes them able to do really hard things. Like, because if you have this relationship with Jesus, then you believe that you are a genius and you can go conquer the world. Like, I think that's where Acton like fits in super well with Treign Up, and why we chose this model is because like Jesus is the one who gives us the confidence to go live out our lives as heroes. And so I'm super excited about that for all of the girls that are going to walk through our school, and for them to just be able to speak up and have a voice. Because like you said, I was the same way in school. Like, I feel like we were both very good at school, very like straight A students, but didn't speak up and didn't like have the confidence to state our opinions, or
I personally found my value in, and granted, like I did have a relationship with Jesus growing up, but I still struggled to find my value and who God created me to be, instead of
grades,
how people or how people saw me, or was I desirable, was I sorry to interrupt you there, but
no, but that's all of the things that I'm excited about. And I hope that, and I know that all the girls that are going to go through our school are probably going to face the same dilemmas that we face, like body image issues and where does my worth come from, and all of these things. But they're going to have these role models of women that love Jesus that are going to be guiding them and helping them and teaching them. And the hope is that all of the boys and girls that come to our school are going to have a way more personal relationship with Jesus than we ever did that young. And that's what's gotten me through those things.
Right.
Like that is what has made the difference. It's nothing that I've done. It's nothing that anybody else has done. It's believing that I am who Jesus says that I am.
Yeah.
So being able to create an environment for the girls that are coming to our school like that, I'm just, yeah.
And two, like the seasons where I had a strong female mentor in my life made so much of a difference too, who pointed me to Jesus, who reminded me of who I am and whose I am. You know, he's with the scripture, we have this hope as an anchor for our soul. And otherwise we're, you know, we're being swayed with what culture's doing. We're being swayed with what, what's happening with our friends, what's happening outside of our control and our circumstances. But, just continually having them just have that one anchor that brings them back to who they are.
Yeah.
If you're watching this right now, Jacob's going to go and put up just a still shot of the Coach Sam show, because I didn't have this plugged in when we were doing this. So that went blank there for a second, but you still hear the audio. Yeah, like when I think about Scarlett, I think about, I don't want her to grow up thinking that she is less than. Like that, we had this word prophesied over us that we would have a girl. And when we were going through this, I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to look my daughter in the eyes and be like, I created this for Caleb and Lucas, but you got to figure out something. Like I didn't want to do that. And then I do think that the way that maybe insecurities surface, they might fall into different categories for young girls and young boys. However, like the root of that is still getting our identity in something other than Jesus.
Right.
That's still the root. And the way that that surfaces could be body image issues. It's not to say that guys don't struggle with that at times too. It could be getting your identity in sports. It's not to say that girls don't struggle with that sometimes too, but it might surface differently.
Right.
The root's still the same. And we want them to know that they are cherished, they're chosen, they're loved, they're redeemed. And I want Scarlett to grow up being fearless. Another thing I'm excited about for Caleb and Lucas is for them to know, like, these are strong women that love Jesus. I think it's on both sides, but the problem's on both sides, right? Like guys want certain things, so then girls behave a certain way outside of boundaries of scripture.
Yeah.
But also if women didn't behave certain ways, then guys wouldn't want these certain things. Like it kind of goes both hand in hand. One of the things that drew me to you is you didn't pursue me. Like what I envision in Treign Up Academy is growing up and training up, no pun intended, these strong women that will not allow themselves to be entertained by little boys, that will not allow themselves to be like pursued passively.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have to be a strong man who loves Jesus to even approach a woman that comes out of Treign Up Academy, because their identity is going to be securely in the Lord, and they're going to go and pursue their gifts and their giftings and their skills and all that stuff. So last little thing, and we have 3 minutes to do this. So you guys are lucking out.
Yay.
Caffeinated Corner, sponsored by the local cup.
I thought I got to talk about Ben now.
Oh, do you want to talk about Ben? We'll do that. We'll do that.
I'm okay. Let me know.
No, we're going to do the Ben thing. We're going to do the Ben thing. Something that I do on each show is I'll ask the guest to talk about their spouse and what drew them to their spouse. So Ben talked about you and how much he loves you. I've been able to talk about Lauren, but what drew you to Ben? Why do you love Ben? What made him just an awesome person for you to build your life with?
So if you listen to Ben's chat with you, he shares a little bit about how he knew in 7th grade he was going to marry me. And I was like, I did not know that in 7th grade. We didn't start dating until we were in college. And I just kind of had this, he kind of sat me down between boyfriends, frankly, and gave me this talk of like, hey, I have loved you for so long, and you won't, you won't find anybody who's going to love you more than me. And there was a part of me that was like, oh my gosh, and we were friends this whole time, but he's like, wow, he's really like, he has stuck around. He has been faithful. He's been loyal, and he's not going anywhere. Like, well, I had to battle that a little bit. There's a little bit of, man, he's either going to love me forever or be super disappointed that he's waited this long. But no, really, it was just like just being friends with him for as long as I had been, just seeing how tenacious he is, how loyal he is. He made me laugh. And then the longer we've been together, just getting to see more of who God created him to be, the more he has like sought the Lord and found friends to seek the Lord with. Like, I know his friendship with you has frankly changed him. Not that he was bad by any means, but he now like listens to the voice of the Lord, and he gets away with Jesus, and he prioritizes these things, and he's such an intentional husband and father. And I know that it's because of the Lord's work in his life, but also the Lord's grace in putting good friends in his life. And so, but yeah, being married to Ben is always an adventure. I don't always know what I'm saying yes to, but it's been awesome. We're 12, well, married almost 10, but together, I don't know, 13 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. When I think of Ben, I mean, all the words that you said, tenacious, like another word that comes to mind is just persistent, relentless. And that's a story of how you guys ended up being together. It's just consistent pursuit of you. And the way he talks about you is so awesome, because he's like, my parents have prayed for this like for years and years and years and years and years. And he believes that he's hit the jackpot. Lauren, you've lucked out. It's 3:30. You can tell me privately how much you love me. But sorry. I mean, do you want to say something?
Love you a bunch.
Thank you so much. You're the best. You're the best. Thank you guys for listening. I hope that this will maybe just spark your curiosity about Treign Up Academy. You got to meet all of the founders now. You got to meet obviously myself, but Ben, and then the two queens, beautiful women that are leading this school. The main guides right now, Lauren and Alyssa, have done a phenomenal job. They're going to be moving into guide coaches roles next year. We're bringing on 2 more guides next year, and they're going to do a phenomenal job of training them up. But thank you guys so much for listening. Over and out. See you.